When I got home with my physical exam results, I stumbled upon my husband John and my best friend Alice together. He said, "Nina, Alice is pregnant and you can't have kids. Once Alice has the baby, I'll have the baby call you Mom and we'll raise it as ours. You treat Alice like a sister, so her kid is your kid too. Don't worry, I only love you. Once the baby is born, I'll have Alice leave." I divorced faster than you can say infidelity, and won $220 million in the lottery right after. When I opened the door, there they were, John and Alice, making out like they were in some steamy soap opera. I froze, just standing there, totally stunned. Catching my husband cheating with my best friend, that's got to be some sort of cosmic joke. John saw me and jumped away from Alice, pushing her aside. She stumbled and crashed into the cabinet, clutching her stomach, looking pale and fragile. "John, my stomach hurts," she whimpered. John said, "Nina, Alice is pregnant. I'll take her to the hospital first and explain things later." Alice shot me a smug look, like she'd won some game I didn't even know I was playing. Alice was the neighboring girl who lost her parents in a car accident. She was about to take her college entrance exams, and I worked my butt off to make sure she could go to school. I gave her everything she needed as much as I could, but she didn't really make much of it. Ended up in a vocational college, and dropped out halfway to be with a guy named Gary, who turned out to be a real loser. They married quickly, and Gary soon showed his true colors, abusing her. I treated Alice like my close confidant, my sister, someone I'd do anything for. I encouraged her to leave Gary, promising I'd always have her back. After her divorce, Alice moved in with us, which turned out to be a mistake. John took her to the hospital, leaving me alone holding 2 crumpled exam reports from the doctor. For 5 years it's been the same thing. My report is fine, John's mentions low sperm count. To protect his ego, I told him it was my issue, keeping the truth hidden. The irony is killing me. John finally came back the next morning. I straight up asked him, "Why Alice?" He replied confidently, "Nina, it's been 5 years and you can't have kids. Once she has the baby, it'll be ours, and I'll make sure Alice leaves." There he was, this guy I'd shared a bed with for so long, feeling like a stranger to me. Lack of kids is your excuse for cheating. Really? I called him out. Just when I was about to reveal the truth about his diagnosis, his phone rang. Alice, again. He smoothed things over with her and left without another word. Back in college, John and I were quite the couple. We met at the same university, both of us such overachievers. He wooed me with grand gestures, until I finally said yes. Back in the day, he'd sneak hot buns in his coat for me in winter, or peel shrimp for me at dinners. I loved Taylor Swift, so he'd work side gigs just to buy concert tickets. As John's business grew, I left a Fortune 500 company to support him. When he suggested having kids, I quit my job to focus on getting pregnant, hiding his condition with fake treatments. He says he loves me, but he hurts me with his actions. How did I find his words charming once? Love puts blinders on you, I guess. Lately, I'm having this recurring dream that's way too vivid. In it, I plan to divorce John, but he manipulates me into forgiving him, saying Alice doesn't mean anything. Dream me doesn't tell him the baby isn't his, scared he wouldn't handle it. Turns out he never really left Alice. By the time I resolve to leave, our finances are conveniently mostly in his name. I fight for divorce in court, trying to freeze assets. John aggressively argues against it, scaring the hell out of me. On the way to my lawyer, I win $200,000 on a whim with a lottery ticket. But then, boom, I'm hit by a truck. The dream reveals Alice conspired to kill me, bribing the driver, with John secretly involved. She shows mock remorse at my funeral, and John feigns guilt too. In this dream, my hate burned so hot I wanted them both to rot in hell. Waking up felt like coming back from the grave. The pain and rage were almost real. John stayed in the hospital with Alice for what seemed like forever. Needing to protect myself, I hired a private investigator to tail them 24/7. When John returned a week later, I handed him the divorce papers. "John, we're done." I couldn't even look at him without feeling nauseous. A diet plan that required getting rid of him for good. "I'm not agreeing to this," he declared. "You're just a housewife. Do you really think you can survive without me? I'm not letting you go." He tried to sweet talk even as he insulted me. Standing next to him felt like a death countdown ticking faster with each moment. "Forget your fake love," I shot back. "I just want a divorce. You can have the company shares, but the house, car, and savings are mine. Check the agreement. If you don't sign, I'll take it to court. Your business hits a snag because of frozen assets. That's not my problem." After I went off on a rant, John stormed out and slammed the door. Well, that didn't work. So I called Alice and asked if she wanted to marry John. But John doesn't want a divorce. I just handed him the divorce papers, and he won't sign them. Even if you have a kid, he still loves me the most, you know. He even said he wants to keep the kid away from the mother, and let me raise your son. Doesn't it feel like all that scheming was for nothing? I hung up after saying that. In my dream, I wanted shares of the company. It's not a big company, but it makes millions in profits each year. I started it with him, so there's an emotional tie. John, though, is clinging to those shares and dragging out the divorce until it cost him everything, including his life. Now, all I want is for them to never be apart, and for John to end up raising someone else's kid. That night, I heard Alice and John fighting. Why won't you divorce Nina? Was everything you said a lie? If you don't divorce her, I'll get rid of the baby. I'm not letting Nina raise my kid. Get over it, Alice demanded angrily. Sure enough, the next morning, John called me right in front of Alice. That was the real power move. Turns out, I'm just too young, too naive to see John's true colors. John said, Nina, see you at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 10 a.m. My pale fingers gripped a glass of water. Is there a problem with the property division in the divorce agreement? You'll get the house, we'll split the money. I'll keep the car since you can't drive anyway, and I'll take the company shares. John looked at Alice for a long time before answering. John, you're a serious schemer. Dream on. I was so mad my face turned bright red, and I hung up. I went to a law firm and got a lawyer. We went to court to file for divorce and apply for a property freeze. In the dream, John was busy moving assets around, but let's see him try after the assets are frozen. I don't need the loser, but I can't lose the money. A few days later, John came in, furious, demanding to know if I filed for divorce and froze the assets. I took a sip of tea and calmly replied, yeah, considering our years together, I can do without the company shares, but the house, car, and savings are mine. Agree to divorce, and I'll drop the case. If not, we'll let the courts decide. I admired my manicure while saying this, thinking I might be able to open a nail salon someday. Drop the lawsuit now. Don't you know the asset freeze is stalling many of my company's projects? Do you know how big the loss is going to be? Nina, you have a stake in this company, too. We can't let it go bankrupt. Watching John trying to tug on emotional strings, all I said was, agree to divorce and I'll drop the case. If not, we'll wait it out and let the law decide. Then I went upstairs back to my room. It wasn't even until the next day, that night itself, John called me. He agreed to the divorce but had 3 conditions. Drop the lawsuit and lift the asset freeze. Don't tell anyone the divorce was because he cheated. The shares are his. The company has nothing to do with me. We quickly handled the paperwork at the Civil Affairs office, and John drove me to the court to withdraw the lawsuit. At the same time, the property title was changed to my name only. With $2 million in savings, I'm now a single lady with riches to enjoy. Word is that Alice brought in a project with a big profit margin. If the assets stayed frozen, that project would have fallen through, which is why John was in such a rush to agree to the divorce. In the dream, too, this happened, but it was John's rival Gary who snagged the project. Yet it later tanked due to a major financial crisis, with the partner company ending up $36 billion in debt. John's company dodged a bullet because I froze the assets. Now, I'm just sitting back and enjoying the show. Will Alice still love John after his company goes under? The day I got the divorce papers, I went to the lottery shop. In the dream, I bought a ticket for $8 and won $200,000. I picked the same numbers this time: 10, 11, 20, 21, 27, 40, 41, and planned to buy 100,000 worth 5,000 tickets at $2 each. I'd have 220 million and no taxes to pay. The ticket was tucked safely in my big LV tote. All these numbers meant something to us. 7 years of marriage, and we couldn't make it work. They say when you're unlucky in love, you might get lucky in something else. A week later, I saw the lottery store with a banner. Congratulations to the mega winner, Nina, on her 220 million jackpot. I was bundled up like a mummy, only my eyes showing. When fortune drops into your lap, be careful. After picking up my prize and donating $375,000, I went to cash in the 220 million at the bank. I put half in a fixed deposit and half in a savings account. Later, I treated myself to some seafood and shopping. I spotted some designer bags. Just as I was about to pay, someone called out, "Isn't that Nina?" It was Alice, clad in a dress and heels, her belly showing. Beside her was my ex-mother-in-law, John's mom, Ruby. Great, just what I needed. I rolled my eyes, sipping my coffee, ignoring Alice, and handed my card to the clerk. "Nina, you're divorced now, better use your money sparingly. Once it's gone, she said while flashing her engagement ring. Nina, John proposed to me. Make sure you come to the wedding. Alice looked at me with eager eyes. I want my marriage to have your blessing, she continued. Seeing her beaming about her actions, I knew I couldn't let her down. Alice, are you happy being the one who stole your friend's man? Proud to be a mistress with a baby out of wedlock? How about I get some reporters to do a feature on you called How to Steal Your Best Friend's Man? People around us, especially two middle-aged women who looked quite well off, were gossiping, agreeing, and muttering things like, who knew? You think you got a guard against women outside, but then it's your own sister who goes after your man. Some people are just bad to the bone, can't be taught. Seducing their friend's boyfriend. Right, who'd have thought someone who looks so proper could be so low? Alice looked both angry and helpless as John's mom, with her sharp tongue, snapped, Nina, it's not my son's fault you can't have kids. You can't blame him for wanting a divorce. Why are you so evil-minded as to deny him a child? I accept Alice, because she can give my son a big healthy heir to inherit our family's fortune. I laughed. They say birds of a feather flock together, and it's so true. Ruby, there's no way I'm telling you that the baby Alice is carrying isn't John's. You'll end up being the grandma to someone else's kid. Alice, you know better than anyone whose baby that is. You better not mess with me, otherwise, your good days will be over. I grabbed my newly bought stuff and walked off with grace. What a mood killer. My shopping spirit vanished. I just took a cab straight home. Without a man, I suddenly have more time on my hands. I used to wake up at 6 to make breakfast for John, go grocery shopping, do the laundry, and mop the floors in the morning, bring John his lunch, and sometimes do things for his parents in the afternoons, all non-stop. I also had to endure his parents' constant nagging, criticism, and unfriendly remarks. Isn't it better to be a single rich woman? But before I could enjoy it for 2 days, the top 3 trending topics were, Company H forced into liquidation and bankruptcy, a lottery win of $220 million, a girl rejected after seeking family ties from afar, because her home got torn down for new developments, giving her 4 houses. Netizens looked like detectives talking about it all in detail on Twitter. Some claimed there was insider stealing, saying I must have known the winning numbers, cause otherwise why buy 50,000 tickets in one go. Someone even chimed in, with more than 40 million in taxes and not a dollar paid, this person's a genius. Others suggested that authorities should step in and investigate. All this talk made me really nervous. They had my picture buying and claiming the lottery, and even though I was all covered up, those who know me might still recognize me. Even without real name verification for the lottery, there's no guarantee they won't find me. Better safe than sorry. When I bought them, I wasn't even sure they'd win. It was based on a dream I had. I bet big with $100,000 to see if my dream scene would be real. It was my first time buying. Didn't expect online chatter to be this intense. I work in finance, and of course, I know how to legally minimize taxes. With all these factors combined, yeah, I guess it looks like there's a lot of coincidences. Who spends $100,000 on lottery tickets, one set of numbers and 50,000 tickets, and I don't have to pay taxes? Even I think it seems fishy, let alone the internet folks. Most people in this world envy the rich. That's why I now only go out for essential supplies. I just stay home, tend to my plants, watch TV, cook, and learn baking from bloggers, thinking the buzz would eventually die down. Little did I know things would just escalate. Afraid of being targeted, I took off to the Maldives for a vacation. One day, lying on a beach chair, soaking up the sun, John calls me. John was furious. Nina, didn't we agree that you wouldn't go public about my cheating? Now everyone in the industry knows I cheated with my wife's best friend. You broke our agreement. Give me back the $200,000 I gave you as breach charges. I was totally confused. I didn't do anything. I'm on vacation, with great food, views, and handsome guys with abs. Why would I care about my ex-husband's drama? John sent me a video. Watched it. A more video with a sensational headline. Man cheats with wife's best friend, because his wife can't conceive. There were all kinds of comments underneath, and someone even dug up my and Alice's identity. John's rival, Larry, mocked him at a banquet. Word got out, and the wives of several business partners found out. Gossip sucks. I laughed. Serves you right. You and your drama got captured and uploaded online. This is karma. Even the heavens don't want you to be happy. Was it really not you? I seriously couldn't care less about your issues. If you hadn't been sleazy and gotten involved, you wouldn't have been caught and posted online, I said coldly. John went silent, and just as I was about to hang up, he said, Nina, honestly, I still can't forget you. I'm only with Alice for the child. After being with her, I realized you're the one I truly love. Can we get back together? Rest assured, from now on, I'll only love you. His confession made me want to gag. The male attendant, Ken, noticed my frown. Am I pressing too hard? I smiled. You're so considerate, Ken. No, it's just right. I'm comfortable. John overheard my conversation with the attendant and blew up. Nina, what are you doing? Are you cheating on a man? Who is Ken? His tone made it sound like I betrayed him, which is hilarious since we're divorced and I'm free to do whatever. Get back together with you. What for? You've got nothing to offer. I've got money and a fit body now. Why would I want you when I can have a gorgeous guy with abs and a 6'2" frame? That's it. Stop bugging me. A decent ex should just be like his dad. Because of that cheating video, John lost several business deals, and the project Alice introduced earlier collapsed, because Company H went bankrupt. Couldn't fund the suppliers, including Company N, and Company N, owing $3.6 billion in debts, failed to pay suppliers. John sank half of his company's funds into it, and getting that money back quickly is impossible. Without funds, his company struggles to run. The project wasn't supposed to be risky, and it wouldn't have gone bankrupt so fast. Who knew cancellations would happen all at once? Bankruptcy's looming, and he's after my money now. Screw him, jerk. Good riddance. I only returned home a month later. The lottery drama quieted down, thanks to the official response. The bankruptcy of Company H, leading to many suppliers going bust, shifted the spotlight away. I arrived home to find John's persistent face at the door. He immediately confronted me. Nina, did you win the 220 million lottery? My hand paused on the doorknob as I calmly looked at him. John, does my winning or not winning have anything to do with you? So it is you. I knew it. It's you who won. John held the doorknob tightly and stared at me. Those are marital assets. I have a right to half. Keep dreaming, get lost. I stomped hard on John's foot with my high heel and slammed the door shut as he yelled. A few days later, John slapped me with a lawsuit. He's asking the court to divide my lottery winnings. I got the court summons and burst out laughing. Looks like John's company's in deep trouble. On the court day, John made a righteous speech. Your Honor, Nina purchased that lottery ticket during our marriage, won 220 million, and hid it. So I was unaware of this asset during our divorce. I now demand Nina give me half of the winnings. John, if you think you'll get my money, you're just dreaming. And I handed over the video and photos of me on the trending news. I was cautious, bundled up to avoid acquaintances acknowledging me and wanting to borrow money, but I didn't expect it to still get picked up. Luckily, I chose not to take any shares and got divorced as fast as I could. If not, it'd really be a mess. If John walked away with 110 million, I'd genuinely flip. Judge, I bought this ticket after my divorce. Here's the purchase date. Plus, it was bought with my premarital assets. I handed the purchase details to the judge. I kept them on hand for moments like this where things can get unclear. The final court ruling. The lottery ticket was purchased after my divorce and is not considered a marital asset. John was furious, his veins popping out as if his anger might burst out at me. But I didn't care. He's just a clown. A woman needs her own career. After years as a stay-at-home wife, it wasn't easy job hunting. I applied to several companies and finally landed a new job back in finance. One evening after work, I ran into Ethan at the door. He was my high school classmate. He was always the reserved type, and we didn't talk much back then. After high school, we went our separate ways and had barely kept in touch for 7 or 8 years. His appearance had changed a bit. I had missed a few high school reunions because of John. Never expected to end up working at the same company as Ethan, who turned out to be the big boss. Ethan recognized me, which jogged my memory. We decided to grab dinner and caught up on our lives. We even added each other on Instagram. Afterward, as the rain started, Ethan asked if my husband would pick me up or if I needed a ride. I mentioned my recent divorce in a casual tone, saying not to worry since I'd already called for a cab. Ethan seemed momentarily stunned, but didn't press further, watching me get into the taxi. A few days into the job, I heard Alice delivered a baby boy early. John and Alice argued because John blamed her for their company's collapse. If it weren't for Alice, the company wouldn't be on the brink of bankruptcy. Alice ended up having a difficult delivery due to stress. But with a son now, John tried to win her over with bags and jewelry, becoming her errand boy along with his mom, Ruby. After Alice's recovery period, John's company went bankrupt. They owed over 10 million in debt. Alice didn't want to repay the debt. When John and his mom were away, she mortgaged the house to a loan shark for $1 million, took everything from the safe including cash, jewelry, and bags, then fled abroad. That month, the finance department stayed late to close the books. It was past midnight when I left the office to hail a cab. Suddenly, 2 masked men grabbed me, covering my mouth before I could scream, and pushed me into a van. In an abandoned warehouse, I saw John. He slapped me hard, yelling that my gossip ruined his company. I have 220 million, yet I didn't even consider splitting it. Now he's in debt over 10 million, and Alice has taken what's left. He demanded I pay him 2 billion for Alice's betrayal. My face burned from the slap, rousing in my ears, showing how hard he hit. I steadied myself, keeping a calm demeanor. John, I stood by you from nothing to something, and this is the thanks I get. You cheated, and now you blame me. You're here because you're broke and drowning in debt. Weren't you worried about your legacy? You have your heir now. Where's your empire? I mocked John, watching his anger spike as he lunged, gripping my neck as if to strangle me, only to release his grip suddenly, looking remorseful, heartbroken, and tender. Nina, I love you. Please give me the money. Could we be a happy family now that Alice is gone? He cried as he spoke. Seeing my moment, I spat at him defiantly. No way, even if it kills me. As John started beating me, the door burst open. To my surprise, Ethan stormed in, immediately taking John down with a punch and kick. He gently picked me up, full of concern, asking how I was. Before I could assure him I was okay, the police arrived, and I passed out. Later, I learned that Ethan had taken me to the hospital, staying by my side the whole night. When I asked how he found out I was kidnapped and got there just in time, he simply smiled and said nothing. John and the thugs were arrested. I gave my statement, the kidnapping charge undeniable. I thought he'd get 10 years, but he ended up with a life sentence. I got a call from the prison. John requested to see me. I didn't plan to go, but there was one last thing I needed to do. John looked weary in his blue prison uniform, but seemed calm. Nina, if I hadn't pushed Alice into having a child, could we be living a successful, happy life now? John, there are no ifs in life. If I hadn't divorced you, if I hadn't won the lottery, if I hadn't discovered your schemes, would I be here now? I replied coldly, yes. If I hadn't received that dream warning, Alice and John would have killed me. If I hadn't had John followed, I wouldn't have survived. When I learned of John's plan to kidnap me, I called the cops half an hour after getting in the van, stalling for time and playing on his emotions so he'd think I still cared for him, ensuring his arrest. No need to guard against thieves forever. Oh, there's something you should know. Did you really think Alice's child is yours? I showed him 5 years of medical reports. The words low sperm count left John shaking, muttering impossible repeatedly. All that to have a son, losing his marriage, and committing adultery. Family and career gone, only to realize the child isn't his. A child he raised that wasn't his own. Originally, I thought letting them stew in their mess was fair. Who knew it would end like this? Indeed, some can share happiness but not hardship. Alice got her due as well. My PI told me she lost all the money she took from John to a scam. 5 different languages, no money, ended up as a prostitute, died on a black man's bed. Before, I was planning to hire a background actor to play a rich young master, just to get close to Alice. Not gonna happen now. After that dream, I spent hundreds of thousands spying on them. Now John and Alice are gone, meaning they can't harm me. Finally, I can breathe easy. I bought John's bankrupt little company. Same people, just a different owner. I got a professional manager to run it. The company makes 2 to 3 million a year, which is enough for me. I'm still a working stiff. Since the kidnapping, Ethan's been acting different. He said he wants to date me and leaves flowers every day, waiting after work to have dinner with me. He always takes me home, and leaves only when my lights are on. The office is buzzing with gossip. Men, whatever. Being a single rich lady ain't bad. Ethan's epilogue. Nina and I were high school classmates. Just that. I followed her for 3 years. I first met her in a small alley outside school. I was surrounded by thugs, extorting me. She yelled from outside, "The police are here." The thugs ran off. She doesn't know how her one shout saved me from a beating. On graduation day, I wanted to confess to her. I hesitated, only to watch someone else call her over for a photo. Then, my family had issues, and I was sent abroad. Took forever to come back and find her. Learned she married someone from our school. I wondered then if I hadn't gone abroad, would I have been her husband? My family kept calling me back to New York, but I refused. Even if we're not together, I wanted to breathe the same city's air as her. Maybe my secret crush moved the heavens or something. I saw her name on a candidate list from the HR manager. I immediately kept her on. I envisioned all sorts of ways we could meet. None worked out. Finally, I saw her post work, pretended to clock out too, and acted like I accidentally recognized her. Used the haven't seen you in ages excuse for dinner. I was thrilled but nervous. Even though I knew what she liked, I faked asking about dietary restrictions, pretending I knew nothing. That night was the closest I'd been to her in years. She didn't know her shout saved me from a beating. Hoodlums cornered me for protection fees in that alley. Her shout scared them off. Since then, I watched over her. Our biggest interactions in high school were borrowing things. That was my way to talk to her seriously. I sometimes turned in assignments late on purpose, so she'd talk to me, even if just to nag. It made me happy. After dinner, it rained. I planned to take her home. She mentioned she was divorced, leaving me stunned then overjoyed. By the time I processed it, she'd left in her car. Then, she got kidnapped by John. She asked how I knew when. I didn't tell her. Can't say I was outside every time we worked late, watching her get in a car. I was terrified seeing her taken away. I followed them to an abandoned warehouse, scoped it out, counted 3 of them, then barged in. John's face knocked him down. Her half-swollen face got me burning mad. I trembled, thinking I'd lose her. At the hospital, I dragged the director over, waiting outside surgery, praying. Only when the doctor said she was okay did my heart calm. I stayed by her, terrified she'd vanish if I blinked. After the incident, I stopped hiding my feelings. I wanted her under my protection. I wanted to be her rock. Thought about torturing John privately, but the cops took him away. Still, can't let him off easy. Hired a lawyer to make charges stick harder, turning 10 years into life in prison. He won't be getting out, dying in there. Hired folks in prison to give him a proper welcome. He'll wish he was dead but won't get it.